Today, we're looking at Birmingham Pen Company's Steel Tower Smoked Iron. Hi, I'm Adam, and I'm an ink guy. I get inks, test them, and share the results with you. Now, Birmingham Pen Company's Steel Tower Smoked Iron is a brown ink. To make sure I have a range of experience with this ink, I do the writing samples. I put the ink into a different pen for a day. I then put it into a Levenger TrueWriter with a broad nib to take my notes for this video. Now, before we go to the writing samples, let's look at the sciencey bits. Up first is the chromatography. And I agree with Vita that I've learned a lot by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. I put a line of ink down and immediately put it into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And what we see is this kind of greenish brown on the bottom that pushes its way up, shows us a very nice purple, and then a very orangey tone across the top. Now the one on the right, I let dry for 10 minutes before I dunk it into water. And all of the inks that pushed up are much lighter. A bunch of them, I think, stayed in place. The line across the bottom is very dark, very there, really is showing some permanence that this ink is going to want to have. Now it does push up, showing a nice light brown. It shows a little bit of that purple that was there. And the orange is the most pronounced thing to just hang around. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink can be expected to perform on the page, and more importantly, how hard it might be to clean from your pens. Now, I let the smear dry for 3 days before testing it. Looking at the highlighter, I'm a bit surprised by how much this really started to feather out and get some blurry action going. That makes me a little unsure about using this in a note-taking situation. Based on the chromatography, I was a little surprised by that. And especially when we look at what happens with water. Water is only able to remove some of the darkest tones, but not a lot of them. Pen Flush did just as little as water did. It's really not making this budge. It only lightens it up just a little bit. Even 1/3 bleach solution, while it's removing most all of the ink, it is leaving a brown staining behind. Some of the brown that was at the bottom of that chromatography is still very much there and in the paper. For the inks I've tested, I have found a viscosity. For the inks I have tested, I have found an average viscosity of 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Birmingham Pen Company's Steel Tower Smoked Iron has a viscosity of 1.39, making this a very wet ink. To find my average dry times, I use my writing samples done with the extra fine and medium nib on Clairefontaine, Tomoe River, and Rhodia paper. For the inks I've tested, I found an average dry time of 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Birmingham Pen Company's Steel Tower Smoked Iron has an average dry time of 17 seconds, making it not just normal, but average. Now, let's look at the writing samples. I picked this ink up in sample form. Now, it doesn't really show, but there's like nothing. It's such an opaque ink, which is weird, that there was the tiniest little bit in there. And when I spread it all around the jar, it like covers it up like it's full, which is only strange in how it writes with the 1.1 from those samples. Be careful because they make a mess. I'm going to move on from that. To keep my writing samples consistent, I use a Jinhao 159 with a Goulet 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X 450 with a Goulet medium, and a Jinhao X 750 with a Goulet extra fine. Let's take a look at the Clairefontaine. We get no bleeding, no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. It does offer some spots of shading because it's quite light here. It also tends to look more gray in the lighter tones. But we do have that nice shading. Like the H and the M are much darker than the rest of the letters around it. B is very dark. Tower starts lighter and works its way darker to the E and then lighter again. It's very nice. The extra fine is a significantly darker tone than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo, sheen. No real shading. I say no real shading because there's like one word that's very dark. The is very dark compared to the words around it. It took 10 seconds to dry. It's in the medium tone that this stands out. I'm calling this a brown green. Excuse me. Needed a drink there. A brown green because of how it looks in the wetter nibs.
when I took my notes with a broad, wet pen. Beautiful. Really brought this color out. It's like a brown green to me. I know it's mostly brown, kind of gray. There's some of the green in it. It's beautiful, and it really comes out in a wet, broad nib. Medium, no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 16 seconds to dry. Just look at that tone. Here I'm indifferent. Here I don't care for it. Here I love it. The scrubby for the extra fine and the medium both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it. We didn't get it in a smear test. You could recover this if you smeared while you were writing. Tomoe River. No bleeding. Of course we get ghosting. Though 1.1 is very light. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shading. The extra fine is a little bit darker than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 15 seconds to dry. The medium is a significantly darker tone. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 29 seconds to dry. And really here on the cream paper, that green brown jumps for me. It is amazing. 29 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And the smear test you could not recover if you smeared what you were writing. Rhodia, no bleeding and no ghosting. Though 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, it has spots of shading like the K in smoked. The bottom of the I to R in iron. Nice. The H in ham. Beautiful. The extra fine is slightly darker than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading, 11 seconds to dry. The medium, darker tone than the extra fine, significantly darker than the 1.1, and beautiful. Absolutely beautiful tone. Don't care for it, love it. The medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 19 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show us no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it. And the smear test you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Original Crown Mill, no bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1, too light for me. That kind of greenish there. Sorry, gray, not green. Definitely looks gray there. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading. The extra fine is darker only by a tone or two than the 1.1. The extra fine has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. Medium is a significantly darker tone than the extra fine or the 1.1. The medium looks nice, not as nice as it did on the other papers. The tone's missing something. And I think it's because it's coming across as just a dark brown. It doesn't have that kind of something green with it. The medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shading, 11 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine and the medium show no color variation. We didn't expect it and we didn't get it in a smear test. You could recover if you smeared while you were writing. White lines paper. Now look at that. Does fairly well. Yes, there's some tiny spots that occur on medium, but that's about it. We really have no bleeding. Couple spots. The show through, not too bad. Not much ghosting. The 1.1, very light color, certainly a gray. It has no feather spread, halo sheen, no shade. I'm looking at the monitor and it looks much darker on the monitor than it does in person. The extra fine is significantly darker than the 1.1 with no feather, spread, halo sheen, and no shade, 5 seconds to dry. The medium is significantly darker than the extra fine. And here again, I don't care for how this is looking with the tone of the white lines paper, this gray paper. It's just not for me with this, although the ink performs well here. Medium has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade, 7 seconds to dry. The scrubby for both show us no color variation. We didn't get any. In the smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. Franklin Christoph. I'm looking at the tone. See, the tone is almost the exact same. It's that gray because it doesn't look as good. No bleeding and no ghosting. The 1.1 has no feather, spread, halo sheen, no shade. The extra fine is slightly darker than the 1.1. It has no feather, spread, halo sheen, or shade, 7 seconds to dry. The medium is not a tone I'm caring for. I'm chalking it up to the gray paper The medium has no feather, spread, halo, sheen, no shade, 10 seconds to dry. The scrubby of the extra fine shows some color variation, but we didn't get any. And the medium shows none, we got none. The smear test you could definitely recover if you smeared while you were writing. And that is all that I have for the writing sample.
Instead of finding inks that look like Birmingham Pen Company's Steel Tower Smoked Iron, I would prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. And being a brown ink, I really wanted to go with an orange ink. I went with an orange-red leaning Noodler's Dragon's Napalm. Before I give my opinion on this ink, I would ask, if you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. And if it's your first time here, I would invite you to subscribe. So what do I think of Birmingham Pen Company's Steel Tower Smoked Iron? It's really kind of a greenish brown that comes through a lot in the writing, although I have it as a brown ink. And there's a whole bunch about this ink that I should not like, but the color itself is magnetic and keeps drawing me back to using it. It is just something about it is gorgeous on the paper. Thanks for watching.